In the fall of 2014, I was studying abroad in Salamanca, Spain. I decided to meet up with some friends in Munich for Oktoberfest for one weekend, which meant that I'd be traveling alone. That's fine, I thought. I'm an adult. I can travel by myself, right? Well, I made it to Munich and through the entire weekend with no major mishaps. And then Sunday rolled around and it was time for me to go back to Spain. My flight was leaving early, like 6 a.m., kind of early. But I made it to the airport on time and I got through security, only to realize that I was on the entirely wrong side of the airport. I couldn't see a way to get over to Terminal 2 where I needed to be, so I asked the security guard what I should do. He pointed to an exit sign and said, "Follow that sign." I was a little skeptical because it was clearly an exit sign, but what choice did I have? So I followed the sign down an empty hallway that was definitely not meant for people like me, and I eventually came to this locked door covered in what had to be warning signs, but they were in German so I couldn't read them. I'd gone too far down this creepy hallway to turn back, and this is what the security guard had told me to do, right? Well, there was this big green button on a stand just in front of the door, so I pushed it. Lights started flashing and an alarm went off, but the door was unlocked, so I pushed through the door and kept running down this empty hallway. It eventually started sloping down into some stairs, and I just knew I was underground. I eventually found another locked door, more German warning signs, another big green button, which I slammed down on. More alarms and lights go off, but the door's unlocked. So now I'm practically running through the empty hallway, totally freaked out. I find a third door, locked again, covered with warning signs, and another big green button. I knew what I had to do. So I slammed down on this big green button. Lights and alarms go off, but I push through the door, only to find myself in the freezing cold outside, standing in front of these massive planes. I was on the tarmac. No one else was out there because it was so early. I was in full blown panic mode, totally freaking out, sprinting along the side of the airport looking for somebody to help me. And I'm thinking, if I don't make my flight, I can't afford to make it back home. Well, I eventually find a shuttle bus and I'm slamming on the window, totally freaking the driver out. And thankfully, he speaks some English. And after getting over his initial shock at seeing some idiot college kid running around the tarmac, he told me to wait inside while another shuttle driver came to get me. So I waited inside some glass doors until another shuttle drove up. But when the driver didn't get out at first, I started to get worried that the driver couldn't see me, so I started to panic again. The doors were locked, but there was another big green button, and I knew what that did. So I slammed down on the big green button, lights and alarms go off, and I tried to run through the door, but this time it doesn't open, and instead I just bounce off the glass like a Stooge character. The shuttle driver gets out of her car real slowly, and she unlocks the door that I just slammed up against, and she points to the big green button, to the lights, and then to me in question, and I nod my head and say sorry, feeling like a complete idiot for not knowing how to say it in German. She wags her finger in my face and says, "No." In spite of this, though, she drives me to the other side of the airport and lets me through a weird side door, and I get to my gate with just enough time to catch my plane, but not enough time to get arrested by the Munich airport police.